Hey, it's Freitag. In this podcast, we interview business owners in New Hampshire and beyond to get their perspective on work, growth, and of course, the weekend. Join our host, Freitag marketing owner Jan Ziegler, as he interviews fascinating guests. We hope you'll enjoy this episode.
Welcome to another episode of It's Freitag. I'm Jan, and today I'm joined by LaRose, and I'm super excited. Liz is the executive director at Monadnock United Way, a large nonprofit here. Welcome, Liz.
Thank you, Jan. I'm glad to be here.
So before we sort of dive into the depths of the United Way and kind of what you're up to today, give me a bit of a background on, where did you start out in your professional career? Did you grow up around here? Like, what's your background?
Okay. So I was born no, I'm kidding. I started my career, and I was on a little bit of a different path, which might be interesting for your listeners. When I graduated from high school, I did not go right to college. Mm-hmm. So I did like marketing and that type of work, but I worked in banks, and I took some night classes and started to learn about who I was and what I really enjoyed doing. And I learned by working at one of our local banks that I really enjoyed the marketing and outreach. And so I also realized that most people who don't go and get a degree right away are 40 plus by the time they finish a nighttime degree program, the people that I was going to night school with. And I thought, I've got to just go back to college and finish this up, because I was 21, 22, and I was really looking at
nights, right? Yes. Like, it's a lot of nights to get those hours.
So, and by that time, I had also refined what I really enjoyed doing. So marketing, PR, communications was really clearly in my wheelhouse. So I went back to college. I spent 2.5 years back as a full-time student, a little bit older than everybody else, but still full-time student, and came out with a communications degree. During that time frame, I worked in an ad agency, a very, very small one in Hollis, New Hampshire. Okay. Very tiny. There were probably like 3 or 4 of us there. Mm-hmm. But during that process, I was able to learn about how brochures and videos and events work, because I provided support. And then that helped me understand what I was learning in the classroom. And I went to Rivier College in Nashua, and it was very much an applied degree program where you're learning in the classroom, but then you're also doing the work. You're not just getting tested on theory. You're actually doing it. And, they made sure you got good internships. And so I was lucky enough to intern at Leahy Clinic in their community relations area. So that really launched me into, wow, now I want to go out and start doing this work. Yeah. And I went, by the time I graduated, the company that I had worked for had folded, but another one with some of the people I worked with had started up. And they were a group of people who used to work for Digital Equipment Corporation, which was a big employer. I'm dating myself, but back in the 80s and 90s. And I went in with my portfolio that I had developed from working at the first place, plus college, and just was like, hey, can you do freelance? I'll do anything. I'll proofread whatever you need me to do. And I did a couple of proofreading jobs and then a couple of other ones, and they hired me immediately, which was great. And I worked there for 4.5 years. Okay. And that really allowed me to learn the business and understand how, because we would do some pretty big projects, really big events. And so I was really able to learn all the pieces. And this was at a time when the World Wide Web was just starting. AOL was the big thing, and we were all trying to figure out how to take that and turn it into web pages. And web pages were super simple: text, picture, text. And that still gave me a really great background. Fast forward, I decided to go out on my own and do some freelancing. And so I spent 13 years after that as, they call it now fractional staff people, but at the time it was consulting or virtual. So I was a virtual marketing manager or director.
For what kind of companies did you work?
I started out doing financial services. So large accounting firms, like 50 people accounting firms, individuals who would do financial planning. And then a couple of those folks were also very philanthropic. And so by accident, I landed in doing golf tournaments to raise money.
Yeah.
And so I did one. The first one was for juvenile diabetes, and I think we raised $19,000.
Which was a lot of money back then.
Which was a lot of money, yes.
I mean, still a lot of money, but like back then it was a lot of money.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I moved into another, like that introduced me to another person who wanted to start a foundation. And that foundation's not around anymore. This is a while back. But it was a scholarship foundation, and that we used to raise upwards of $200,000. So it was there was a concert with like Hootie and the Blowfish type folks coming, and then a golf tournament and a couple days of activities. So we would raise a lot of money for scholarship. So those are my first few clients. And then I moved because I lived in Nashua. That's where I grew up. My husband and I decided to move out to the Monadnock region, and that was in 2001.
Okay.
So I needed to start moving my client base here. So I kept those clients for a while. They were in the 495 belt, and then slowly started making my way through this region. And I was able to work with Monadnock Community Hospital and Crotchet Mountain Foundation and Granite State Independent Living up in Concord and some other larger nonprofits. And the key was working with the fundraiser, because that development person usually has two roles, development and marketing, and they're only good at one. So the people who were development strong, I would end up being their partner. If somebody was in that role and they were marketing strong, they didn't need me.
But often they're like the stronger development people, but they don't know how to get the messaging out too.
So it was a great pairing, and that worked for a long time. And like I said, I did that for 13 years. And then Crotchet Mountain Rehabilitation Center, or Crotchet Mountain Foundation, was one of my clients. And I had been working with them for 5 years as a consultant. And then I came in full time as the director. And so
that was like the transfer into like nonprofit, like directorship.
Yes. Yes.
Cool. And so is that kind of like, do you miss the marketing side of things, like in the PR work? Like, because right now, I mean, now you're like the ED or president at the United Way, and obviously your marketing and development is part of your job, but you also have all these other pesky little things like, HR and like this and that and budgets and all in my opinion, not so fun tasks. Like, do you miss some like pure communications PR work sometimes?
Not totally. I think in this role, I have the opportunity to do that because when you are, one of my major roles is fundraising, in addition to the HR and financial things, which you're right, those for people like us, that's not so much fun. But the art of fundraising is really communications. So it is kind of funny that a lot of fundraisers don't think they understand communications because it's relationships, and then it's understanding your audience and putting together programs for them, or case studies, et cetera, or cases for support, I should say. So I really do get to do that. But what I do miss would be, and I say this to our team all the time, I've been here 10 years, so social media has changed a lot in 10 years. I used to be able to know if I wanted to do this with Facebook, I knew where to go, I knew how to measure it, I knew what all the pieces were. I have no idea now. From that, way too far away. So I miss that in a way, but you know what? That's someone else's opportunity to work with us and bring that skill to our table.
No, it's true. Like, and even I have like the same thing is like, the other day I needed to do something in Photoshop, and I was like, I'll just do that myself real quick. And I was like, well, I haven't used that in 3 years. Like, like, because design goes to designers now. And like, I don't touch it. And it's really weird because I used to know how to do every little thing. And now, I mean, I still know what I want, but I don't know how to do it.
You don't know how to do it. Yes. It's humbling though, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm like, oh, does somebody help me, please? So at the United Way, like, tell me, like, give me sort of like the 60-second sales pitch for like elevator pitch for the United Way, because I think a lot of people they've heard a name, but they don't know maybe exactly what you do.
Yes. When I think of our United Way, and every United Way is slightly different, but our United Way really works with our community to help our nonprofits and our community members do more and achieve more together than they could by themselves. And so that is, in our side, it is helping with children and youth so that they are successful as they grow older, and financial stability for everyone in our region. Those two areas are super important to us. We happen to be uniquely positioned to be able to do that work because our history, almost 70 years, almost 75 actually, goes back to those couple of root areas. And there are a lot of other things in our communities that need to be addressed. But these are two that we can really lean into and do a great job. And so we bring either groups of individuals together to have a coalition. And we have a few, early on coalitions of people who are trying to work on a solution for, say, children or financial stability. And then we also provide to groups of agencies, so groups of nonprofits get together, and we'll provide them with anything from funding, which is what most people know us for, to getting grants and attracting federal and state grants into the region, or even grants from other companies that they may not know about, so that they can do either the same work and do more of it or start a new program. And we've got some great examples of that where nonprofit groups by themselves were said to us, we really want to try to do X, but we don't have the funding to do it. So we sit down with them and say, what's your vision? And then if it's a vision that we think can be funded, we start helping them either write for them or write with them grants. And we've got examples of that where those projects are happening.
So it's almost like the United Way is like a strategic support layer for existing nonprofits. Like you don't, like, would you say that's true? Like you don't actively feed children, like, but you help other organizations do that. I mean, feed children is just an example, but
sure.
Like, is that kind of like, does that make, like, if you break it down, you're basically like a support system for nonprofits to do like more and better work?
Yes. And for community members to get involved either with those nonprofits or in a coalition. For instance, we have a housing coalition right now that we launched last year with grant funding and community support. And this is a very large group of nonprofits, community leaders, people who are in local government, so town government, city government, and the county, faith-based organizations, builders, people also who sell real estate, and those who are environmentalists. And they are all at one table on a regular basis talking about how do we solve the housing crisis here.
Yeah.
And so that's like, how do you bring we're not funding any one program in that, but those people are coming together and we are figuring out how to address this as a team. And there are some really great solutions that are coming out of that too.
So in the 10 years that you've been at the United Way now, which is a long time, like how has like the work changed? Like from like sort of the challenges that you tackled when you first started that role to like now, like a decade later, like I think two questions separately is like, one is like, what were you doing then that you're not doing now, and vice versa? But then also, has it gotten like better or worse?
Oh, it's gotten
like,
better.
Like, okay, like tell me about it, because I feel like everybody, everybody is always in such a doom and gloom mood about like, today is as bad as like worse as I've ever been, which, isn't really true. But like tell me a bit about that.
Sure. Life is hard and we're doing amazing things, right? So 10 years ago when I came into the United Way, it was in a model that had been around for 65 years. Okay. And it had a few different names, but most recently it had been called Community Chest. And that's what many, many people in the community know us for, which is people donate through their payroll deduction at their companies. And so a little bit of money every week adds up to a lot. That money would come into the United Way, and then we'd have teams of volunteers in the community who would look at applications from individual programs across the region. So mental health, food, shelter, children, et cetera, childcare. And then every year they'd get an award. And that was a big part of how those nonprofits were able to support themselves. You know, they would get a big chunks of money from
So basically you're like a fundraising engine.
A fundraising engine. Fundraising and then granting engine. And so it was basically an annual cycle of learn what the programs want to do in the beginning of the year. They put in the application, and then we fundraise the second half of the year. Then we award the money at the beginning, and then the cycle goes.
Yeah, but pretty limited to that.
That
right?
yes,
like just like success was measured by how much money could you collect and how many grants could you write.
Yes. And in fairness to the folks who were doing that work, because it was excellent work and it was so important, there was a real community feel also about bringing people together and bringing people to the table. And from what I've heard, our United Way was really good at that, of being able to say, hey, there's a problem in the area. Let's all sit down at the table together. Yeah. So I'm honored that, you know, we can continue that tradition as well and build on it. Yeah. And so, but when I came to the United Way, right before that, our board had been working on a strategic plan, and there was a recognition that campaigns and workplace campaigns were starting to diminish. And this was not just here. This was a nationwide trend. It continues to be a nationwide trend. And there were many, many reasons. I won't tell you all of them because we could definitely be here all day on that, but they're real. And how do we, if this is real, then how do we still support and help our community be as strong as it can be? And so a strategic plan had been created. And when I came in, it was my job to implement that. Okay. So we were basically switching from one model to another, which we call collective impact. And that's doing more together than you could do alone. So on a very basic level, partners, programs all work together and share a pool of money. And then they say, this is what we want to do. Yeah. And we couldn't do that before because we weren't sharing the money and we weren't talking to each other, but we all had this vision. So let's do it together.
Because what's happening, which maybe not everybody knows, is that there's like not necessarily one nonprofit per issue. Like in the Monadnock region, there's like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, and they all are very siloed, right? Like they, I mean, I think recently there's been a lot of change there, but like it used to be that all these different nonprofits basically compete about the same donors, and like the big, you know, corporate donors, like whether it's the Putnam Foundations or SPW or something like that. And then they all act very siloed in their own ways and don't really like coordinate with each other their efforts. Like, yeah. Yes.
And I think a good example of that was the first collective funding that we did back in 2018. There were 4 to 5 agencies that were all providing home visiting across the region. And home visiting is where somebody comes into your house when you've had a child and they help you learn how to feed your baby. And what do you do if, you know, your child is, you know, screaming at 2 a.m. And do you have financial needs where we can help you get in touch with those organizations? So it's a real lifeline for families. And every one of them during that allocations process that I described, where they would go into their funding cycle, separately would say to our allocators, well, we'd really like to grow, but we can't. They're competing for their piece of the pie. And so getting together was not possible. And then we also learned something interesting, which was every one of them, while they wanted to grow, they happened to have their clinician, so the person who's providing service, and that's what they've been trained to do. They're not a marketer. I'm a marketer, but they're not. Yeah. But they're in charge of marketing and outreach. Of course,
but I mean, that's right, because you're the subject matter expert, and then so they get promoted, and then suddenly their job is anything but what their education is. So just like you promote them out of a good job into like something where they're like, oh, like I'm a clinician, but now my job is fundraising and HR.
Right. Yeah. Right. And so that doesn't work. So we said to them, how about if you be our first test run on doing something like this? And we will give you a pot of money equal to and a little bit more than what they were each getting separately. You work on that pot of money. Yeah. And what they wanted to do was to be able to reach more families and reach them better. So one of the first things they did was use our funding to hire one person, and that person went out into the community to do the community, bringing people in for everybody. And they were able to figure out how to have one intake. They were able to figure out how to do it so that it was fair. And this person wasn't like only giving the referrals to one of the agencies. And that's been going on since 2018 quite successfully, and they are reaching many more people, and they're much more aligned in the work that they're doing, and it's such a huge success story.
Yeah, that's really cool. So what are like the issues that now, like you mentioned you have the housing coalition, but what are the issues that you're addressing now that you have like in your strategic plan? What are you like, this is what matters to us now?
Yes. So, and we'll talk about some of the other ways we changed our model. But right now, and we do a lot of listening, our United Ways always do that. It's very, very localized. Your money stays here. And we look at what is needed here.
So even though United Way is a national organization that has hundreds of local United Ways, thousands of local United Ways, like every dollar that gets fundraised here in the Monadnock region stays here. Doesn't leave. Okay.
Yeah, I think we give the United Way Worldwide 1 penny per dollar to help us with like national marketing and stuff. But other than that, it's all the money stays right here. And they don't dictate to us what we need to do. So we're super responsive, and through listening sessions, and particularly when COVID came, we had an idea and an inkling that childcare was in need, and housing was going to be in need. And we heard more and more and more of that during COVID. And then it got to a real big crescendo where childcare centers were starting to close, either close down or mostly close classrooms. They were losing staff. So childcare is really big. Housing is really big. And those are two of our major focuses. And it's really interesting because it turns out that is what's happening across the rest of the state and across the nation. And so it just so happened that we were really aligned in those ways. And those are the two biggest areas that we're leaning into. And those are very specific. But if I look at our big picture, and we call them impact areas, they are youth opportunity. So that's from early childhood all the way up until 18 or 24, depending how you define youth. And then financial security for people in the region. So those are the two major buckets, but the two biggest pushes are right now early childhood and housing.
Okay. And do you feel like, I'm curious what you think about housing in general, because I feel like there's been so much headway made in the last few years, right? Like, I mean, housing is being built everywhere, it seems like. Do you think we're at the tail end of that crisis? Not saying tail end because like we don't need to build more, but I feel like there's so much already happening, and it's just like obviously it takes a long time to build houses. Like it's like a 5-year process. Do you feel like that's mostly solved, or do you feel like there's a lot more to do?
There's still a lot more to do. I'm going to go by memory, but there were studies done by the state and also by Southwest Regional Planning here in the region on the housing needs. And I believe it's over 4,000, pushing 5,000 units are needed in order to solve the issue by, say, 2030, 2035, 2040. And we're not there yet. There's still quite a bit to do. And then you also need a balance of apartment type housing plus standalone housing. And it's going to take a little while. The good news is it is having momentum. So I love you saying you're seeing it. That's really good.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like half of Swansea is a construction site. Like,
and above this building.
Yeah, exactly.
That we're in.
Tell me about it. So what does like your day look like? Like, what do you do day to day as like the president at the United Way?
Okay, I'm going to start with the fun things.
Yeah.
So the fun things are reaching out to our donors, having meetings with them, sharing both of our successes, things that are happening and doing really well, but then also areas where we say, we're hearing this, we'd like to grow in this way for the community. We're hearing this from the community, and these are thoughts that we have. Our donors are great about not only supporting us financially, but just listening and being a sounding board. So that's super fun because it's our way of learning.
Yeah. Okay.
Learning from others. That's a good part.
That's the fun part.
Yes. The marketing is also the fun part. So I do a lot because my background is communications. I actually like doing
and you write a lot,
PowerPoints.
right? Like, so for example, like there's lots of articles in the Sentinel and lots of interviews. Like you like doing all that PR and outreach.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. And writing PowerPoints. I'm the PowerPoint queen. And then teaching our team how to do the same. And AI right now has been so helpful because you can take your thoughts, you can take a bunch of, this because you do it. You can take a bunch of different pieces of information, drop it into ChatGPT, or for us, it's Copilot. Yeah. And then you come out with something that's
deck,
and a great first draft. And sometimes it's second and third draft quality so that you only have to make some tweaks. So we're actually able to do more now. And that makes it fun.
Yeah, especially because you're limited by budget and team size, right? So like there's always more you could do if only you had the resources, and now you have this resource. Yeah. So
those are my two favorite, and that includes also our board. So when I say donors, it's our board and volunteers. I love speaking in public. Here I am. That's also fun for me, and I think those are the top.
Okay.
And you're going to ask me now about the things I don't like, right?
Yeah, probably. But you know what I can imagine? It's probably like looking at the budget.
Yes.
Organizing people's PTO. like the boring things.
Yep.
Yeah. So next question is, you've done 10 years in this role now. Like, what are the next 10 or the next 5? Like, what do you feel like is like what do you want to achieve in the role or with the organization?
Sure. I'm going to go backwards before I answer that. Yeah. So when you asked me early on about the old and the new, so as we moved out of the old community chess model and into collective impact, we have successfully over the past 10 years, and it took us, I think, about 4 years or so to move everybody into the collective model and for our community members to see it as a viable thing. Yeah. When it's conceptual, people will meet with you, but they kind of give you the look like, okay, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
And now
also because it all looks very fancy on slide decks, right?
Yeah,
but then
all those slide decks.
What does that mean in real life?
So it's really wonderful that I've been able to take all those slide decks that I went on the road with and be able to say, we've done it. And our community can see that that's happening. Yeah. The other part was also diversifying and bringing other resources to bear. So we have one of the diversification strategies was grants. And not, small grants, 10,000 here. And I say small with air quotes because for most people that is a big number. Yeah. But when we say grants for diversification, we're thinking very large grants. So 100,000, 200.
Big public grants,
Big public grants. And we've been super lucky in doing that. And I will give 2 examples.
I mean, it's not luck though.
No, you're right.
It's like, I mean, you didn't get lucky. You just wrote a lot of grant applications.
Yes.
And you wrote them well.
Yes. And we matched them up.
Yeah.
So I'll give an example. There are, I think 13 sites that are after school programs. And they kept telling us, we really need to have a better pipeline of staff. Yeah. So workforce development actually is another area that we're really leaning into right now. That's the third one. And the more they talked about it, we said, okay, well, let's see what's your vision? At the same time, we then looked at the Northern Borders regional grants. Those were coming up, and we realized we had this really great match. And so together with them, we wrote a grant so that we could hire at the United Way one person who would stand up an internship system that wasn't just college students. We love our college students, and we're working wonderfully with our local colleges on this, but also open to anybody. Yeah. And then helping to make that a sustainable pipeline after 3 years so that the after-school programs would be able to do this on their own. Yeah. And I believe at the last notes I looked, I think we have 40 or 50 people who have done this program. the programs, whenever I see them on the street or at a meeting and ask, they're thrilled to be able to have this pipeline of people. And the YMCA just hired one of the high school students that they had as an intern. And so she'll be working there while she's going to college.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And we've also, the sustainability is built in so that most of the programs now are able to hire them on their own. They have all the tools they need. So when this grant ends next year, they'll be able to continue doing that work. And that was a $500,000 grant. And we were able to help them get that.
Yeah, but not only that, like it's now sustainable, right? Like it's not like, because I feel like so often with like you have a cool grant, you do something with it and then it dries up. Poof. And then like you go like, okay, I guess that was fun for however long the money lasted.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So those are the types of things that if we're listening and doing our work well, we're giving them funding, we're finding other funds, we're helping and partnering with them. And then in other cases, we're bringing people to the table, whether for volunteers or whatnot.
For coalitions. Yeah. Cool.
Yes.
So at the very end of this podcast, because it's Freitag, that's the podcast name. It's Friday. I love Fridays. What does a good weekend look like for you? Like, what are your sort of secret spots in the Monadnock region? Where do you like spending time? What do you like doing?
Okay. This is dependent on the season.
Yeah. It's just,
so summer right now, we are full into gardening.
Yeah.
Vegetable gardens in our backyard, flowers in our backyard. When we're not doing that in the summertime, we are kayaking on the lakes that are out here. We got during COVID bikes. So we're on the bike trails all the time. We really love the rail trails are wonderful here and across the state. Yeah. And then in the wintertime, it's skiing and snowshoeing. So we can go out our backyard to snowshoe.
Outside.
Yes.
Cool. That's, perfect. I mean, you're in the right spot for that. So
don't you think?
Yeah.
And do people ask you what you do on your weekends?
They don't. But
tell me.
Right now, like this is a very depressing answer, but like right now, like AI is like consuming me. It's like every minute. I mean, I exercise a lot, and I do have friends I hang out with and all that stuff. But like in the end, like AI is consuming.
Ooh.
Like.
Are you learning really fun things?
I learned so many fun things. But it's like Saturday, I don't know, I can do it for 10 hours and be perfectly happy. Like because I think it's like it's not that I think it's like you can be like you can make and build anything you can imagine all of a sudden with zero technical skills. And like that to me is like just the most fascinating thing ever. Because I think like it used to be that like at least in the digital world it used to be that you need to like you had a good idea. There's no way you're gonna make it happen because it was gonna take like it needed to be like a really really good idea because you needed like 1,000 hours to code something or like it took so long that like the investment to make something happen you just threw all the ideas away because you're like, oh, this is like cool idea, maybe worthwhile, but I can't even see if it's viable because I don't. Like it takes too much time. It takes too many resources. But that's all gone. And now you're like, you can have an idea for something in the morning. You can have it done at night. It's amazing.
Isn't it great?
It is fantastic.
The other day, I had to do minutes for a meeting and we did not, the AI thing that was supposed to take it didn't. So I literally had my handwritten notes. I opened up Copilot. I dictated. I didn't try to write it. I just said, topic, blah, 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 blah. We talked about this. Sometimes I'd have to go back and say, I really meant to say this. And then I pressed the button and it came out with perfectly written minutes, 20 minutes from the time I just spoke with no thought process except, my own thoughts. And then I had the minutes done. That would have been a couple of hours of writing minutes.
Yeah, no, it's
by
like,
hand.
Yeah, no, I think, but it's like that. And like the next time what you're going to do is you're going to take a photo of your handwritten notes. And it'll scan the photos, read the text, and like you don't have to dictate it. And,
yes,
it's mind blowing, and it's so much fun. And
it is.
I feel like there's so much potential, and I think my biggest worry is that like the local small businesses don't spend enough time doing it. Because I think the problem with AI is. You can't learn it. Like you have to play with it. Like you have to be like, because it changes so fast and like the possibilities and what I often hear from like local business owners, like our clients especially, is they're like, well, I tried it once and it didn't write the email in my voice, so then I gave up because it wasn't good. I'm just going to do it by hand. But it's like you just have to constantly play with it. Like I build dumb stuff. Like, I built like a little piece of software that like does my like running coaching, like from like, and just for fun to be like, oh, how can you build that? How does the structure work? Because I think like if you learn that now, like a lot of our workforce problems, you can solve by that, because suddenly you can take your admin tasks, you can cut them in half because, and you can pay your people better because you have more money.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's like the other thing is that a lot of people, they're always like, oh, it's going to take my job away. I'm like, yeah, no, it's going to make you more valuable to your employer.
For a better paying job.
Yeah, for a better paying job. Because if you use like, for example, like our project managers, or account managers, we kind of like, how many accounts can they take? Right? Because it's a lot of email writing. It's a lot of like meetings and then processing and that kind of stuff. And the faster they are, the fewer account managers we need, the more we can pay them.
Yes.
And
the more work they can do for your clients.
Exactly. And the more we automated a lot of dumb stuff that now we don't have to write you like a manual weekly summary anymore of all the things we did. We just have AI do it. So we can spend time doing the stuff that our brains are actually good at. Which is not typing emails. So that was a long sort of tangent, but that's what I spend my weekends doing.
Good for you.
Yeah.
And it's going to benefit you, but everyone else too. So thank you.
So thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate it. I'm a big fan.
Back at you.
Thank you.
Well, that was a great conversation. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please leave us a nice review wherever you're listening to this. It really means the world. Our episodes drop every other Friday, so stay tuned for more insightful chats from It's Freitag.